I'm not gonna beat you, so I don't need to hold the door for you. I literally said that to a girl I was dating. She was like, seriously? I told the story to her friend, and he was like, seriously? And yeah, seriously. What does that even mean? My friend said, if someone pushes you beyond limits, you don't know what you're capable of. I mean, I was beaten as a kid. I was harassed. I was psychologically heavily manipulated. I swore to myself a long time ago that would never make me violent. At the same time, this weird anger inside of me that I'm very aware of since as far as I can remember. That's actually the hard part. How do you deal with that? How do you compose with yourself having such difficulties? Because at some point you want to avenge yourself. At some point you may come across someone and someone pisses you off. Let's take the example of like some random dude on alcohol in a nightclub and you want to punch the guy in the face, you know? Right, that makes sense. You've undergone so much injustice during your life that you're just thinking, what if I just did it? What if I just punched the guy once, right? That'll make sense. People did it to me when I was a kid, and what is it? Just like one punch? And that's true, but at the same time, I never punched anyone. And I don't want to. And I got asked lately multiple times, like, do you have hate? Of course I do. Another time, I was asked, are you violent? And I answered no. Why would I be violent? Well, because you've been through all of that. That's right. That makes total sense. Actually, that's the answer to the punchline. That's quite ironic. I mean, my punchline to this girl is very ironic. And it's a bit stupid. I'll confess about that. But that's the intention. And I'm a bit playful with that. That's just me dating someone, right? But there's a lot of truth in that. Because who can claim they will never raise their hand on their wife? It's a very hard claim. It's a very weird claim, actually. But I claim it. And my friend is right too. You never know what you're capable of in some situation, very specific. And I had this debate with him. How true is my assumption? And how right is he? We were both right, actually. I'm right because most people don't know themselves well enough. They are just out there pretending, especially very famously, these guys pretending they're feminists. And it's very trendy these days. And actually, very often they reveal themselves being the worst of men. That's quite intriguing. You can be a dude and be a feminist, I guess. But some dudes think about that in order to manipulate women. It's so fucking weird. And that's cowardice, actually. The extreme example of a man not knowing himself. I mean, the same thing applies to women in different contexts. I've seen this scene many times. Actually, you don't need to have trauma to learn how to accept your dark side. It's very much related to the shadow. And it's very relevant if you've experienced lots of trauma. But at the same time, actually, these feminist guys are like that because mainly they don't know what they are capable of. They're so much unaware of that they came up with a strategy about how to avenge themselves. It's like there's almost no way back on that. As I really think so, there's no way back for persecutors, and beyond persecution, there is Machiavellian behaviors. It's even more scary, actually. Another mistake people make, and I get that a lot, is why do you care so much about your trauma? The just move on thing. I mean, they're completely ignorant and they are unfair to themselves. Not to me. I don't care, actually. I know it. I mean, they just try to take me on the other side of the river, like, oh man, just don't care about that. Like, why are you thinking about that so much? I mean, it's because many people are very triggered by that. And that's quite a challenge, actually, to figure out, because I get told, oh, fuck you, man, you should not talk about that. Why not? And that's top level trigger for people, because they hear the word trauma and instantly reminds them of what they didn't fix, which is not my problem. But I'm like, this, it's fascinating on psychological perspective, how instant is the projection on me that I'm the source of the problems. I got enough people to look after, both professionally and personally, so that I don't have to deal with people on a daily basis. Anyway, that says a lot. And that's the hard part. People don't want to see that. They don't want to claim, they don't want to attest that there is a demon in them. Because they're afraid of it, of claiming it, of looking at him in the eye. That's what makes people dangerous, actually. People are not dangerous because they're like because they think they're good. I think I'm good because I know how bad I can feel at times, because some remind me of once when I was hurt by someone or something, which allows me not to project. My shadow is kept in my core here. I see it coming, I welcome it, I keep it. And it's like two different sides of me. I clean everything from the inside in order just to give people what they deserve on the outside, which is actually, eventually, love, attention, overall, what my qualities are about. And this way, I can tend to claim that I'm a good guy. But if I believe I'm a good guy, like on a daily basis, pure and simple, not thinking about anything, not thinking about this hierarchy of things, on spirituality, on trauma, on the shadow, this distinction, etc., I would be completely lying to myself, like most people are. This would make me very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Because I would be unpredictable. And people are unpredictable. When people have this impulse and they react and they hit, suddenly you get to understand the proportions. You're like, if he or she is capable of doing that, like suddenly after 1 or 2 drinks of alcohol, what is he really capable of? The question is worth asking. You're at the cause, not at the effect. Which take us to the question, are you in the moment or not? You can be reacting different ways, but actually it's not you, nor your shadow that makes the decision. It's something we could call the trauma gut, right in the middle of it. The living adaptive system formed by your relationship with your own trauma. The first principle. There's you, your trauma, that's everything in between. Some people don't understand that. They're like, there's good and bad. They live according to what they think them being virtuous should be. Basically, should be gentle, should be caring, many qualities, right? They tend to get better. The underneath truth is quite different. Like we were just saying, there's you, there's your shadow. Two different perspectives on good and bad. You may have values that help you define good and bad. Your shadow, your traumatized self, thinks the same. These two don't agree with each other. What happens in the middle of it is a trauma gut. Every phenomena, every conflict, things become nuanced. It must be said out loud than having dark thoughts. Let's start with yourself, not like with other people, but like if you sometimes feel like shit, if you sometimes hate yourself, if you despise yourself, let's stay on the very basic line. That's actually okay. I mean, even myself, I struggle with that at times. Sometimes it's related to what I'm trying to do in the real life. Sometimes it's not. Hiding this, moving on from that, ignoring that, will not fix anything. You're just making it worse for later on. Maybe you'll survive that. Maybe one day you'll be 80 years old on your deathbed, and I mean, for 10 minutes before dying, you'll think, oh yeah, I spent 80 years of my life just lying to myself about everything. What that means underneath is you just spend 80 years not doing the work, pretending instead of integrating. You've had a shit life, and you are like grown up. You wanted to be strong. You wanted to be respected. You wanted to be a hard worker. I get it. I want that too. Why do you want that? I mean, at some point, it's completely irrelevant. Spiritual person can detect that in a second, seeing if you're full of shit. We got many signs like that. Whether we go beyond the spectrum of what's happening in this world and in the other, depending on your beliefs. But I'm open to everything, and at some point, signs exist, and if you're not ready for it, they'll keep coming, and you'll keep stagnating, actually. Question that keeps coming is, how do you stop being violent? How do you stop being angry, hateful? The answer is simple, you don't. You don't control when it's coming. Depending on your personality, depending on your identity, depending on your past, you won't control that. You get used to figuring it out. That's why it's not easy. That's why most people talk about that online. They're just ignorant about that. I mean, I could say they are a bunch of liars. But I mean, 90% of people talk about trauma online. They didn't go through it. Or they just read the book and they're just spitting the book online in front of a camera, which is quite annoying. It's just comforting them and people about that. The right answer is simple and eat your shit every day. Almost literally. That's the hard part. I mean, you can claim it, probably, whenever you feel terrible, whenever you got doubts. For example, someone thanks me for something I did for him or her. I got this feeling that it's not enough. Sometimes I get these reflexes, like, what if this person abandons me? What if he or she leaves me? I try to avoid that, but the acceptance of the feeling, the emotion, the thoughts is everything this is all about. Just integrate it, differentiate things. I worked a lot on my personality on the outside, got really sensitive to who I was surrounding myself with. At the same time, as I kept improving about that, I started having wonderful relationships, friendships, business partners. I still had this feeling, and I was like, why is that feeling following me? That scarce feeling that I might end up lonely. That doesn't make any sense. I must just accept it and not listen to that anymore. Actually, I don't project that feeling, but sometimes I'm alone at home and I just observe it. And it's temporary, but I can make the difference because I did the work. There was this past character of mine, the hurt one. That was only about that. Through time, I learned just take care of him and to be very harsh on myself about not letting myself, my mind, my soul get influenced by this. That's the nuance. The shift operates, the first step, the first shift operates once you're aware of it. The second shift is harder, probably. It is to stay consistent. I failed at that many times before, because ego is always waiting at the corner for you to believe you're done, that you did everything you are capable of. And actually, you always get surprised. Like, I can say proudly now that I'm in the most peaceful environment I've ever been in my life. And it just revealed blind spots. That was quite frustrating to me because I spent 27 years in survival mode, like literally. Since I wanted to take care of my people, of my family, especially the woman of my sister, my mother, my grandmother, I just tried everything for 27 years. I thought it was 25, but it was 27 at the end of it. Just to make sure they are alright. Because I grew up with them, none of them was alright, was doing fine. You could tell something was wrong there, and I was asked to help and all of that. And I mean, it destroyed me literally over the years. It maintained that survival mode on and on. That was just terrible. The first 15 years of my life were like very shaped by this abuser that was my father. And then the next 12 years with these three women, precisely. And at some point, well, I mean, one of them just held me captive for 1 hour and just went completely crazy after betraying me. So, I mean, that hurts. That hurts. But that's just life. That's quite a miracle at this point that I'm still mentally okay. And never found a reason to raise my hand on anyone, actually. I mean, I remember times when, for months, I was not okay with that. I was, I was very angry, and I didn't know how to cope with it. You're just so powerless, weak, lonely. No one should be in such loneliness and powerless state, but I was. And you wish you told yourself what you needed to hear back then. You wish you could accept the anger, actually. But you could not, because the shadow resurfacing or just embodying you. You're not embodying it. The shadow embodies you. It's just so strong. By the end of the day, you hurt yourself, whether it's emotionally, psychologically, mentally, or worse. What I did during all these years was just holding things inside and I had these phases of spiritual growth. I remember 3 years ago, I got aware that I lied to myself about this work being done, the one I'm talking about right now, that is daily. Now, I know that I have some friends of mine who will be like telling me if I go down the path of letting my ego take control over me. And that's where the subtlety operates, because you need to be convinced, in a way, that you do the work every day, but the real work, what that means underneath. Not only something you tell yourself to reassure yourself. One way to know is that if your shadow resurfaces, and it happens pretty much every day, you don't run away from it. You can get attacked by your shadow at some point, and you know you're being attacked. And you switch every day from one personality facets to another. That's the inner work, which is complementary to what you do on the outside. The outer work, which is having a life, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a family, friends, projects to business, get work done, and all along the way, it applies to myself too. When your level of trauma is so high, you have these semi-depressive states that can stay for minutes, hours, days. Shouldn't last more, although otherwise you got a problem with switching facets. That's where there's work that needs to be done there. If you need help with that, just reach out to me down there. I get asked a lot about how I work, because I'm no licensed therapist, so I switch on the spot modes depending on who's the person in front of me, where is he or she at. It's a great matter about being precise, about telling someone what he or she needs to hear. Otherwise, if you cannot set the volume properly about that, I don't think you're a good mentor or coach, whatever. Some people need answers. I try to provide them with it. It's about connecting to the older on my side as well. And most importantly, it's about showing the door. I cannot open doors for people. I'll be lying about that, and I think people are talking about trauma and giving like precise guidelines and claiming that at the end of it, you will be fixed. Nah, man, that's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. There's shadow knowledge that brings you awareness, that allows you bonding with your dark self. I mean, the elder understood that long ago. The yin and the yang is all about that. Then hold the work. It must be said that holding an insane amount of anger inside of you is so hard. I know it myself. It is proven every day how hard the work is. There are many ways to avoid the work. You're addicted to work, sports, drugs at some point, or you're a spirituality addict, do yoga. You think, working on myself, reconnecting to myself. And that's my next video actually, but so much bullshit. It's like meditation for most of the people who just meditate. Meditation is not doing the work. Two guys talked about that already. John Wellwood and Shogya Trunda. They talked about spiritual bypassing and spiritual materialism. You do yoga as a pretext of avoidance, or as a daily ego boost. To assess reality about that,